Welcome back to Blue Tinted Glasses, the best Leicester City channel on the internet, period. Joined today, as always, two hosts, me, Luke, and Duck. Duck, my brother, how are you?
I'm doing good. If you're asking in terms of how I'm doing with Leicester, right? I had to sit through a painful hour yesterday with Anil looking through our 4-0 loss against Brentford. So that wasn't the best experience ever. Always nice to, hang around with Anil though. But the football hasn't been brilliant recently. Luckily though, we've been better away from home, and we're playing away from home tomorrow. So, who knows? Maybe we'll score a goal or two.
Or two. You know what, Duck? You copped a few pelters, mate. I loved watching that show of you and Anil. If uni and your commentating gig doesn't work out, brother, you need to be Victor Christiansen's bodyguard, lawyer, everything,
Crazy,
man. Like, I love your passion, dude. If when I love someone, I'm equally as deluded. I don't give a fuck. I will fight all of James Madison's fights for him, even though he's not at Leicester. I still love the kid. So, anyways, moving on. Did you watch the whole game afterwards, or did you just suffer through Neil's analysis of?
No, I was lucky to be working, right? So I had opened the game for the first 5 minutes. I was like, "Oh, this looks good, exciting," but I had to get back to work, so I closed it down. And then when I finally had a break again, I wanted to check on the scoreline. Opened my phone beforehand though, 3-0 down, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna ruin my mood when I'm on air casting. I have to be happy and excited. I don't want to ruin it all by seeing Leicester get absolutely smashed." So I didn't end up watching it. I've obviously over the weekend seen a lot of the clips coming out on Twitter, right? The Mbeumo goal, the Damsgaard goal in particular, I've seen a lot of times. The Damsgaard one in particular, what a ball, man! What a ball!
I honestly thought after watching that first half, I was like, we might lose Duck on blue tinted glasses. He might just switch governments and decide he wants to go to Brentford. The last preview was so damning. I was just like, after that game, I wouldn't blame
Never,
him.
man.
But
I'd never leave Leicester. I stayed here in the Championship, and I'll do it again.
never, brother. Me neither. Just quickly before we get into this preview, I copped some negative feedback on my last post match. I don't know if you've seen it, Duck, but I definitely went over the top. I like to try and be authentic. The rage went too far. I genuinely don't wish any ill will or harm to any of the players. I definitely went, like I said, over the top. I say things kind of tongue in cheek, trying to get a rise out of the lads that I'm doing the stream, whether it be Anil, Locks, Manny. I know that they're going to get a laugh out of him, but I've got to remember that this is live in front of people. But like I said, I'm trying to be authentic. I'm trying to be like a conversation at the pub where you say things that are line stepping, but no one else hears it, so it's okay. But hey, again, I'm sorry. I definitely did sound like a half-wit. I swore way too much, and I apologize. So definitely got to rein it in a little bit. So for what it's worth, I'm sorry, but let's move on to this preview. So this is the preview for West Ham versus Leicester City. I'm looking forward to this a little bit. Not really. I'm going to have to wake up at same as that game, by the way. The reason I'm upset, I'm waking up for these games at 3:45 in the morning on a work day before I go and paint walls all day in 30+ degree heat. So why do I do it to myself? I love this club. I love having that sliver of deluded hope that maybe we'll get a goal. We live for those moments.
Maybe we'll get a goal, not a win.
Maybe we'll get. I live for that first 15 minutes of Leicester City's performances in the game before we concede a goal and capitulate. But hey, here's to this hope for this game. So this is the recent form from West Ham under Graham Potter so far. A big win against Arsenal. Potter fancies himself against the Big Six cartel in his time at Brighton, if you exclude his time at Chelsea. But a draw and 3 losses in between. Few unlucky, you could say.
If you look at the past 5, they've only gotten 1 more point than us, Maybe there's a chance.
I love that optimism, Doug. Maybe, just maybe. We're tired of 17 of Ipswich. Wolves are now, unfortunately, 5 points clear, and I cannot see them being any worse than us, to be honest with you. This is the statistics from the Arsenal game, and I'm going to pull up the 11 in a second. You can see that Arsenal had a heap more possession, 20 shots on goal, only 2 on target, something to be said for that as well. Decent passing accuracy, a lot of fouls from both teams. But what's interesting here, Duck, we're going to talk through this here. So I'm not sure if Paqueta is suspended or what, but I do know that he's facing a lifetime ban. So I don't know if he'll be playing this next game. So if you know, Duck, let me know. If not, West Ham fans, let us know in the comments. But you can see here what a lot of people do against these bigger teams. They set up with a back 5, 3 centre backs, which we'll talk about their positioning later, and they've got their wing backs. Then he went with 3 central defensive midfielders, which is quite interesting as well. And he's put Kudus and Bowen up top as your 2 10s. What did you think of this game, if you caught any of it, mate? And what do you think of how he set up?
I mean, the lineup's very, very defensive, right? As you can see, playing Chris was centre back, and whoever Scarles is, never heard of him before, probably a youth academy lad, which is, for them, nice to see one of them getting some minutes. I do see the point of the 3 DMs approach in this particular setup. You have 2 more physical DMs who are able to win the ball, and then you have 1 deep lying playmaker just picking those great long balls that James Ward-Prowse can produce up to someone like Bowen and Kudus, who would then have the pace and the counter. So, I mean, he set them up in a way that makes sense when you look at it, because you're going away at Arsenal. You're never expected to be dominating the ball there. And I mean, it worked out, right? They made it hard for them to concede shots on target, and they got 1 goal on the counter.
And that's all they needed, mate. And they slotted it, they put away, and credit to West Ham. So, Arsenal bottling it again. Let's get into some stuff about Graham Potter. So, the manager that we're so desperate to get that is never going to come. So some of the things he fancies here: positional play, fluidity, being versatile, building from the back. We all know these sorts of things: pressing and high intensity and attacking football. Graham Potter really likes his wing backs as well. They're very instrumental into how he plays. A lot of this time at Brighton, he did shape up with a 3-5-2 and using the width with the 3 centre backs as well as the wing backs, be able to help in attack as well as drop back in defence. So yeah, real emphasis on attacking with width. And a 2 advanced midfielders as well, operating behind a lone striker to create an overload in central areas. What did you? I rate Graham Potter. A lot of people think that he was flattered by the list and some of the gems he had at Brighton before they were sold. What do you think of him as a manager, Doug?
Yeah, I thought him as a very good manager. I would have liked him in the summer, and even initially when Kubo got sacked, I wanted Potter in as well. But yeah, it's clear we didn't get him. I think the football he can play looks very good. I didn't see much of the Arsenal game. I watched the Brentford game, and I thought Brentford were dominant against West Ham. But then again, it is early into his tenure, right? He's someone who very much, at the very least, the way he proclaims himself, a more of a project manager who needs the time. And obviously, they're rebuilding West Ham by the looks of it in terms of their transfer strategy, getting a new director of football. So I think it'll take some time for them to be turned around in the direction that he wants them to go. But yeah, so far he seems able to adapt and set up his team to win the most matches on the weekend.
Very interesting you say that. So did you say that they wanted a new director of football at West Ham? Because I think that's what he was asking for at Leicester City. And I wonder if he would bring in anyone similar that did all the, the scouting and stuff like that at Brighton, because I can appreciate why he would want that at his, to help him. Yeah, I would be interested to see, because I think they obviously will stay up comfortably, and I would like to see what they do when he gets his summer transfer targets. If they get money, that remains to be seen, but let's see what he can do. But I think that one of the big things to say about him is he likes to play a lot of fluid football and rotating as well, like kind of similar to we're seeing the likes of Marco Silva at Fulham and also Thomas Frank at Brentford. So able to rotate positions fluidly, but obviously not get caught out in transition. Anything else you want to add to that, my brother?
No, sounds good.
So here we go. Has he had a positive impact at West Ham so far? So we went through the results back, a little bit different to what he's used to having at his disposal at Brighton. He's got a lot more physical, central double pivot than what he had with the, Pascal at Brighton. Players that a lot more have been able to make deep playmaking passes and stuff like that, and really, really good at their feet. Now he's got Alvarez and Thomas Souček, so really good job of defending, real physical players, able to win the ball deep in the pitch and further up the pitch, and then progress from there on transition. I think that it's going to click more and more. I do think he'll be able to get a tune out of West Ham. What are your thoughts so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's not probably someone who goes in and has the biggest manager bounce immediately, right? But as I said, I think the way that he wants to change West Ham is something that West Ham wanted, and that's why they went for him, right? And that's why I want him as well, because he seemed like someone who would be able to, in the short term, keep us up, and in the long term, head us towards a new direction. And I think that's what West Ham fans are most excited about, right? Because they had been a bit of a standstill with David Moyes. Yes, they won the Conference League, which for them, absolutely incredible achievement, and I second that as well. I think that's big for them, but they were they were very much just treading water, right? There wasn't really that sign of movement in them in terms of where they were heading, and I think Graham Potter will have that, but I don't think they're by any means unbeatable at this point.
Yep, fair play. I agree. I'm not going to get too crazy into some of the slides this week because I would like to see a little bit more from Graham Potter. But what I will bring up is, so his build-up play has definitely changed since he's come in. And one of the players to watch that does that, who's their danger man, is Aaron Wan-Bissaka. So a lot of their attacks, kind of similar to us on the Cooper, but much more effective, in my opinion, are coming from the right-hand side. His possession and all the stats have definitely increased since he's came. Graham Potter, the possession, I think on average is up 10%. So definitely a lot more focus on possession, but Wan-Bissaka is basically playing this hybrid role on the right-hand side. So you can see here, for example, this is against Brentford. So I've put this here because, look, it was a different shape against Arsenal, and he's not going to play a back five week in, week out. He was just getting set up.
Not against us at home. You're definitely not going to be playing a back five against Leicester.
No way. So, like, what threat do we have up top? That's so depressing. But here you can see Wan-Bissaka. He's circled here. So he's about to make a run forward in their build-up play, okay? They decide not to pass back to him, so he comes straight back to be able to cover that space on the left-hand side should there be any turnover, something that JJ could take notes from. And the next picture, you can see about 30 seconds later, not even, you can see he's progressed up the pitch. He's made that overlapping run, and he's about to try and put a cross into the box. I believe it goes out for a corner, though. So this is an example of how they build up and how they can attack. We do see this a lot from JJ, except they stretch the pitch a lot more at the back. Something else I want to point out as well, Duck, is they do play a back three, as I mentioned, at a build-up, but they also sometimes can build with a back two. They will push both their wing backs up the pitch, but they won't do it as, like, let's say, suicidal as Tottenham, where they push them both up at the same time. It'll be one or the other. So the positional rotation's there, but it's a lot more discipline, in my opinion. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, looks good, right? I think they've been able to get a good 2 out of Wan-Bissaka. He's obviously great defensively, but has something to add offensively as well. I think it looks very good, reasonable as well, right? Won't be leaving too much space for us to explore or exploit rather behind them, as you say, when they only go up with one fullback.
And this, look, I know we're going on a broken record. I want to see Mavididi play this game, and this play is a big reason why. So he's fast, he's physical, Wan-Bissaka. This is not the game to be playing Donkey over Reed or Turtle IU. They're just too slow, and they won't be able to track back in time. So basically, I want to see Mavididi play. People say that he's lazy. I thought he was excellent at tracking back last season, obviously granted the championship, although his tracking back probably looked a lot better because we were so used to Harvey Barnes never doing it. So that's up for debate, to be honest with you. But I think Mavididi, if we're going to hit him, if let's say Wan-Bissaka is going to push up the pitch and we could catch them with their pants down, very similar to what we've seen many times with James Justin. I think Mavididi's pace is going to be the man to do it. And should Mavididi have to track back when Wan-Bissaka joins in on the attack, I'd rather have Mavididi's pace to get back and try and help out. That's my 2 cents. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm at the point where when you lose 4-0 at home, I don't really care what the changes are. I just want to see some changes because you can't be doing the same thing as you did when you lost 4-0 at home. Again, I mean, I'm at the point where like wholesale changes, in my opinion, wouldn't be bad either. If you took out Bilal Kanouche for Buonanotte, I wouldn't be complaining. I love Bilal Kanouche. I think he should be one of the first names on the team sheet, but we lost 4-0 at home. I'm open for any change that he might deem necessary, to be honest. That's the point I'm trying to make here. If it's Ayew for Buonanotte on the left, if it's trying to push Bilal Kanouche out on the left again, and then getting Buonanotte on the right, and then whatever he might be cooking, right? Playing someone like Jeremy Monka, who knows? I would not be complaining. I just need to see some changes because you don't run it back when you got clapped 4-0 at home.
Yeah, I spot on agree. I'm going to show some radical changes in spoiler alert in my 11. We'll get into that later. I don't like. Oh yeah, this is depressing me. Okay, we did get clapped, and he definitely something needs to change. So this is speaking of change. Look, I'm all for sacking people that are obviously no good and Cooper appointments, but they've come out and said, I believe, that like there's no intentions of replacing them right now. What are we doing? Why are we sacking people without a plan? I get it, no worries, but like, you know what? Why did you not have someone in place ready to like, look, we're going to sack them in a few weeks. Let's not sack him yet, but look, these are these coaches, or Rude says these are the people I want to bring in. Let's have this set up and plan. Let's have a contingency plan. Then, sorry, Ben Dawson and Denny Alcock, it's time to go. Don't just fucking sack him out of playing.
I have a bit of a different opinion on that, Luke. I think
Let's
it's
go.
more so the fact that now that they've been here for so long under Rude probably has looked at the situation and say, do I need these coaches? And he wouldn't have sacked them if he needed more bodies in. If he felt like he needed more coaches in, I 100% believe they wouldn't be sacked. He's probably come to the conclusion now with Andy King and the 2 signings that he has made for the coaching staff that he has enough to do the training drills he needed. And then probably in the summer, right? When the rebuild or whatever happens is going to happen, he's probably going to be bringing in a few more people, I would assume. But I think there's maybe a chance that, the technical instructions isn't going from him to Ben Dawson and then directly to the players. Like there might be some problems communicating. There could be so many organizational difficulties that does make it like even harder for this to work with those 2 extra coaches if they're not aligned with the leadership in the club in terms of the manager. And I would personally prefer to have a few other in, but I assume that they're competent enough to look at this and say, we're not just going to sack 2 coaches and we don't have enough to, fully make sure everyone has an eye on them in training and make sure they perform to their best level. I believe that they've done this with the belief that with the coaching staff we have, they're going to have a more tight-knit group. They're going to be more, focused on their individual task and all have a clear, distinct area that they need to focus on because that's their area. There's no one else there to help them. I think it's fine. I think it's totally fine. And make sure the vision is aligned for the club and the coaching staff all wants to play football the same way. And I believe, as long as the right thoughts have been made before these sackings, it's fine not bringing anyone in right now.
I'm in agreement with you, and I believe one of them is a goalkeeping coach anyway. And Rudy already has brought his own in, so we don't need 2. As for the other bloke, like I'm in agreement with you. Like if there's any rot there, drain it. But like I think that we need to have more contingencies in place. And Leicester City seem to be like completely without a plan of absolutely every facet of whether it be recruitment, appointments, everything. Like it's a whole nother rant saving for postseason. But it is what it is. They're gone now. Let's see what happens, what Rude can do. But Andy King's in, but everyone's shouting that he's the answer. I love Andy King, but like he's quite raw and green, and it's just like similar to the youth. But let's move on to, has Rude lost interest? He's just sacked 2 people. He's obviously had a big part to play. His comments I really didn't like, where he said that the team is not good enough to play against this opposition. That doesn't motivate players. If you're a player, you're down tools like, well, what's the point? Do you remember when Brendan Rodgers, I can't remember what game it was, whether it was Brentford or one of the games where he said we were overachieving the last few years and the squad wasn't good enough and it needs refreshing. Unless he's putting an arm around a few people, like how many people are going to like lose faith, not wanting to play him anymore? It completely changes the dynamic so much, in my opinion. I don't think you should go out publicly saying that. And to me, that screams trying to save face, so that if he gets sacked or if it gets any worse, it's him. It's not my fault. I wasn't backed in January, which is true. They kind of lied to me. I just didn't have a good enough squad to play the brand of football I want.
I think in particular the comments about his contract length, right? And if we go down to the championship again, what happens there? I thought his comments were very clear that he's at the very least committed to fulfilling his contractual duties, right? He would have 2 years left by the time we went down. I think still making changes to the coaching staff is actually a sign of staying interested, trying to do whatever you can to make things better. I think maybe he has to look at the starting 11 and say someone like Ayu and Dikado or he should be not in the first 11. But that is just my opinion. I think at the very least, there is a chance that mentally speaking, if he checks out, he just goes in every day, doesn't care about the coaches around him, doesn't care about if Ben Dawson's still here, Danny Alcock, because he doesn't care. He's going to be gone in the summer. Why should he sack them now when they will probably be here after him? I think the way that he's spoken and the fact that they're still making tweaks around the coaching staff around him definitely shows he's still there. But I think his just like my positivism, my positivity has definitely been drained a bit by the results, and I think that's just the same for him. But he needs to keep the spirits high. That's his job. He gets paid to do that and make sure everyone is motivated, pushing towards the same goal. So he has to find that ambition somewhere deep beneath him or deep in him.
Good point, mate. That's a very good take. You could be 100% bang on. It'd be very interesting to see what happens once we get relegated, whether he sticks around. He was willing to take the assistant role after being head manager at PSV, and then he's gone and accepted a step down to be an assistant to Erik ten Hag, which I found quite, humble at the time, and I like that. And then he's also left quite amicably when he took over as the head position at United as well when they bought Amarim in. So I liked him leading up until his time. I'm still on the fence about him. I really wish that he would change things up. Do you think he's capable and willing to change it? Do you think he's going to stop playing these slow wingers? Because it's just, as we all keep mentioning, the definition of insanity is that it's trying the same thing again and again and again when it's not working. Do you think that he's willing to play youth this game, Duck? Do you think that we'll see Boyanote and potentially playing the wing, or Bilal, maybe see Monga come in, Evans? Do you think he's going to play the same starting 11?
I mean, it's a bit of a balance, right? Because if you just sit there and tweak and change every single game, it's gonna do no good. It's just gonna be bad. But I think Root has a somewhat okay balance between when do we need to try and change things up, because he gives them a few games to see what will these changes do, how will they impact our team's level of play, and then he makes changes if that doesn't work. Because I think he tried to tweak to say change of play against Everton. That looked horrible, but he gave it another shot and it looked good against Arsenal for the first 80 minutes, right? The high line, it worked, the press, everything seemed to be in order. We needed to be able to score goals, but that's been a consistent problem for months now. And then against Brentford, right, it went back to shit. I'm at that point where if that happens and you in 3 games trying to play this high line and this sort of formation, and it doesn't work, you need to tweak the personnel you have up there. And I think he believes that he doesn't have the quality needed, but he needs to just make some changes. And I think he has been good at that throughout this time he's been here, because he has given them 2-3 games to show, now it's your time, you need to show it. But just remember how our first lineup looked, right? Buonanotte, Casey McAteer, different players were in the starting 11 who've then, been zoned out if they weren't good enough or whatever, in his opinion. And then new one has come in. And then he changed a bit in the defense. Right now, Caleb Okoli is getting regular minutes. And I think he could be someone who's coming back out again for Vestergaard, or Fars is coming out for Vestergaard again, because Fars wasn't in the starting 11 either. The point is, he's been someone who's changing every 3/4 game. And I think he's not that naive to run it back with the same lineup when he got clapped 4-0. If that happens, that would be a huge, huge statement, in my opinion, if he plays the same 11 again. You ask your question if he's given up. I believe if he does that, you could definitely have a good argument for you because he's given up, because it would be unacceptable to lose 4-0 at home and then not make a single change heading into your midweek fixture.
I spot on agree. And I remembered something that I got sidetracked trying to remember earlier when you were talking to me. So you mentioned about Boyanotte and potentially swapping of Bilal. We're going to get into the 11 next. But I don't know how much you watched, but when Boyanotte came on, he had about 2 breaks where he progressed the ball at the pitch really, really well. And one of the things that we'll talk at the end of the show is a lot of the players don't look confident in our build-up or in our attack or anything like that. Other than Bilal or Boyanotte, everyone either passes it back or just doesn't have that, is not brave on the ball and willing to take on the opposition, is hungry to score. And that really, really is disgusting. And I'm sick of seeing it. So I spoke to Anil privately about this, and he said this team goes down. And I said to him, do you think there's an 11 that we can put out no matter what formation it stays up? And he said no. But I've got a few things that I chopped and changed of a lot of things here, and you're going to hate me for not putting in Victor Christensen. Now, you could put Koulibaly potentially as a right wing. He's got a left foot. He's getting advanced at the pitch. He made a lot of good underlapping and overlapping runs. This is my opinion. And I am Australian, and I am just an armchair critic down under, so do not take me seriously. I don't think I'm the next coming of Pep Guardiola. But I will say this. I need to put some money in an Enzo jar right now. It's like a swear jar. I still think we should never have deviated from the 3-2-4-1. You could say the players that we have would not have been good enough when we initially come up to continue that system. Yes, that is true. Do I think that Enzo would have used $80 million or the equivalent of what Cooper got better to a system? Yes. Could that have stayed up? We'll never know. But in my opinion, we should have stuck with what would work. And this is why, again, I will rant about the board later and why we went and appointed Cooper just completely baffles me. But in my opinion, if we were to play a back 3, okay, and not so much a highlight. Now, whether Rude can do this or agrees, this is probably a waste of time to talk about, but I'm going to do it anyway. Yeah. Koulibaly has a left and a right foot, okay? He's quite physical. He's fast. Left-hand side for now, because Victor Christensen hasn't had the best last couple of games, although I would let you argue me that all day long.
No, that's a very fair sentiment. He was shit for the goal he conceded, the second one. That was horrible defending.
But Okoli, now, I agree with you of one thing. You could make the argument instead of Okoli that you would, if you're going to play a back 3, Vestergaard because of his pass-making ability. I would agree. In a high line, you cannot play him. Now, Okoli, though, I think we do need to start using because chances are he will be here next season. He has got that pace. At times, he's quite decent on the ball. And others, it's like, I'd rather just Yannick be playing. So, but I think he needs repetition. I don't particularly want FaZe in the starting 11, but I wavered with JJ. I made this before I heard JJ might be available in contention. But I think to play Koulibaly and JJ and Okoli as a back three is just, you can't do that. It's just essentially 2 fullbacks as your centre backs. Now, El Canoes. Now, this is what I debated about in my head as well. El Canoes likes to play deep. He's even admitted it. He can link up the play really well. You could have him, and he does get stuck in. He does make challenges. So I was debating whether you have Ndidi as a 6, but if you have Canoes, he's going to make those tackles and be able to play the ball out a lot better than Ndidi in that double pivot position, who I really think he could do. You got Ndidi who can win the ball up higher up the pitch and make those underlapping runs, particularly of McAteer that we saw so much under Fatau. It's ingrained in him to see that move. So I would like to see that. And the reason why I put this here before I go for the rest of the players is I think that the wingers look so isolated in our build-up play, and we are sorely missing our 8s alongside them. The patterns, the triangle patterns of play, of passing. It's just sorely missing, and the build-up just looks awful. So
this is when we have the ball, right? I think there's one thing probably to make very clear, right? Without the ball, I would imagine you had to have McAteer play as the right back then.
Yes.
And then, you'd probably switch him more around El Canoes and Ndidi and then say Bonanotti out on the right. So it would still be the 4-2-3-1, or you'd probably defend in the 4-4-4-4, 4-4-2, right? As you've defended. But yeah, in possession, I can definitely see what you're on about here.
Do you know what I mean? Like I was debating, do you have Canoes and Bonanotti as your 8s? They can get up the pitch.
Definitely not Bonanotti as an 8. That would be horrible. But yeah. I think
so?
Canoes. I don't think Bonanotti can fulfill that role because he's a bit too selfish for it. He's rather someone who can, from the position you've put him in, be able to drive it into the attack end and maybe even get a goal himself or create a chance for himself. I do agree that I think El Canoes is a deep lying playmaker. It definitely isn't a bad idea because he's played that in Gate before as well. He can definitely fulfill that role. It's just not something we've seen in Leicester, and that's why it looks so shocking seeing him this far down the pitch, especially when he's been one of our only bright spots in terms of the attack, right?
I agree. So you could make the argument if we were to stick with the formation that we have been playing that you could just. But then again, where do you drop Ndidi for Canoes? I don't think so. But I agree. Bonanotti, he looked like ready to take the ball by the scruff of the neck. He looked really good when he came on. I much prefer him in that central position. It's just Canoes is undroppable at this point, but there is the option to be able to move him around. You can move Canoes more versatilely around to a left wing and stuff like that than you could have Bonanotti, in my opinion. I don't like Bonanotti playing on the right wing, hence I put him in the 8. It's more central. Again, this is a crazy 11. I'm fucking clutching at straws here. McAteer and Mavididi as your wingers. They can drop back as wing backs. They can help in defense and transition. And again, I'll put Daka up top because why? Because Vardy's just getting no service, and it's just hard to see him go out this way. And why not just use Daka? I'm not his biggest fan. I've got receipts for that. But at this point, try something different. I still think we should have stuck to this formation from the get-go and built upon what we worked on last season, but Cooper ripped that up. So this is a diluted, possibly 11 that I've chosen.
Yeah, I think you need to change the name from predicted to Dream 11 or Wanted 11. I think that will be a better title because it's not what I predict will happen. Although I do predict, though, wholeheartedly that there will be changes. I don't know if it'll be wholesale, the 5 changes or whatever that is required for that to really be fulfilled. But I am certain that he will make at the very least 2 to 3 changes in the starting 11.
Yes, this is I should have changed the title for this. It's not my predicted 11. Let's get that clear. This is just Luke's fucking deluded fantasy mind, what I would like to see. Let's move on. These are some of my closing thoughts. Again, I say the same thing every week. Leicester needs to be brave in possession. It looks like nobody but Bilal or Fakundu are wanting to attack. We need players brave. We need Mavididi on. He looks willing to go for it and take his fullback on. Start fast wingers. For fuck's sake. No more IU and Bobby de Coverreed. It's not working. Stop it. And the last thing as well is stop leaving gaps throughout the pitch. You just did the analysis with Anil where you had Samari basically as a lone pivot and the acres of space was awful. There's acres of space in defense and transition, and there's acres of space in our build-up of play as well, or if a transition goes in our favor. It's just there's no attack threat. There's acres of space in defense. And the last thing I want to mention as well, actually, when I go back to this here, the reason I'm bringing this formation here, right, is because in my opinion, when we had, for instance, where El Canus is on the screen, when we had Ricardo Pereira fit and available, inverting last season, the distance for him to drop back into a 4-3-3 shape, which we did under Enzo, out of possession, is a lot less distance than it would be for, let's say, JJ to progress all the way up the pitch, make an overlapping run, get caught out in a counter transition. He's got to run all the way back down to the other side of the pitch. Whoever, let's say, FaZe is marking, he has to leave his man to try and pick up JJ's man. That's another player that you leave free. We're getting pulled apart, and then that's where we've seen so many goals conceded this season. That is my main argument about this, and I'm not saying Canus would drop back into a right-back position, but it's just not working. Under Cooper, is it the players? It's the whole? It's debatable. But, anyways, that is my closing thoughts. What are yours? Dark, and give me a score prediction.
My closing thought is, while there is much to improve on, I think that I'm going to be honest. I think the most important thing is, with the few chances that we create, we need to be more clinical. And I've seen so many of those training videos. They practice their finish, so they're definitely doing that part in training, and they're scoring some brilliant goals. But whenever we then get in game, we never score that goal where you're like, "Ooh, he does well to finish it there." It has to be scrambled over the line really these past few games to get it in, right? Think back to the goal we got at United. Think back to the first goal against Tottenham as well. We needed 2 bounds, and we've only scored one really quality finish as I can remember in recent times, except for the FA Cup game, right, against QPR, and that was the Bilal Kanouche finish against Tottenham. We need more of those moments where a player shows quality in their finish to beat a keeper in a position where you wouldn't expect it, because too many times now, when we get those 4 or 5 shots on target in a game, we waste it by shooting it straight at the keeper. We need to score those few chances. That's honestly my biggest problem, and it has been for ages now. There are many more problems that you can look at and point at, and you're right to do so, because there are many more. But I'm so tired of getting up out of my chair being like, oh, we need to score this right at the keeper or miss the target. Just put it in the back of the net, for fuck's sake.
Just put it in the back of the net. Closing thoughts from Duck, for fuck's sake. I love it, bro. I agree with everything you said. It's just, I can't see it happening. My score prediction, unfortunately, is Leicester City. I'm going to stop being optimistic. Leicester City 0, West Ham 3.
I'm going to say 2-2. I think, and if not 2-2, we will score a goal. We can score goals away, you know. We've done that a few times now, scored in the row. We just can't score at home. And I do believe, right, they are in that building phase where they could make a mistake. And I hope, I don't know what the players have done over these past few days, what Root have done over the past few days, other than sack a few managers. But I mean, think back to last year, we were in such a desperate situation to keep our title hopes alive, and the players found a way to dig themselves out and force some victories. And I feel like if there is a game that could be one of those ugly, hard-fought either points or victories to get some motivation back on the board, this could be that game. I don't know if Jamie Vardy and the pro podcaster Connor Cody has sat them down and yelled at them for 10 minutes or whatever has happened, or if anything has happened. But that's the slight bit of hope that I'm holding on to, that we have some characters in the squad with resilience and the fight to continue fighting until it's over. We can close the gap back down to 2 points. You know, they lost yesterday, Wolves, right? I think that will be a huge morale boost in the Leicester camp, knowing that with a win tomorrow, it's back down to 2 points, and then anything can happen, really, right?
Anything can happen. Oh, mate, hanging on to scraping the barrel here, hanging on to hope. Let's hope that we get 3 points, mate. I can't see it, but I would love it, and I would love to come on and sing Root's praises. But anyways, thank you, everyone. That is the end of the preview today. Thank you, Doug, for joining me as always. Let's try and stay positive, and I will see you guys for the watch along with leaving my CUNT at home for my everyday Aussie dialect, because a lot of people don't appreciate that, and I apologize. So I will say that it is an integral part of some people's Aussie dialect, but maybe not online for people around the world. There are kids and women and stuff watching. Take care. Have a good week and weekend, and I'll see you for the watch along.